share with them. Okay, so welcome to class. We will talk about transformational vocabulary, the power of words, how you can use words to literally shape not just your life, but the lives of the people around you. So let's begin today and usually we take this class with speech writing. I know that a lot of you are involved in some kind of presentation and you want to understand how to write speeches. We will not take speech writing today. We'll begin with transformational vocabulary, and then subsequently, maybe tomorrow or some other time, we'll help you understand how to write speeches, different kinds of speeches, and how to write a speech, So it's a big deal, really. Speech writing is a big deal. And for some people, they want to learn how to write speeches. All right. So let's begin. I like to begin, and I want you to write these. We'll do a lot of writing today. So please write these quotes down. A lot of you know who Aristotle is. If you went to a university or to a tertiary institution, you most likely have heard of the name Aristotle. His philosophy and thoughts have influenced from botany to medicine to military to philosophy, all kinds of religion. In fact, it is said that he was the mentor and teacher of a certain man called Alexander. Alexander was the prince of Macedonia. Alexander was the son of King Philip, king of Macedonia. And that king, who was called the one-eyed king of ancient Greece, handed over his son, his first son by the name Alexander, to Aristotle to grow and develop him, to nurture him, to teach him public speaking. One of the skills that the ancients particularly paid attention to was public speaking. Teach him how to inspire, challenge, how to speak, how to persuade. And eventually, Alexander became Alexander the Great. He conquered the literal world. He literally conquered. There's a part in Egypt that is called Alexander City. So amazing story. So Aristotle once said very strikingly, I like to quote him, it's already there on your screen, and I'm sure you're writing it down, that in making a speech, I'm sure he taught this to Alexander, in making a speech, one must study 3 points. The first, the means of producing the speech. Second, the language. We'll focus on that today, the language. And third, the proper arrangement of the various parts of the speech. So it says that essential elements of preparing a speech or putting together a speech is means of producing that speech. Of course, the channel, what channel are you using? What platform are you using? Are you using the microphone? Are you using television? Are you using radio? Are you using the internet? Are you using the LinkedIn? What channel are you using? What means are you using to communicate? You want to be particular about that because that also can determine the level of influence you have. Number two, you want to focus on the language, the content, what you're saying, what language you're using, and we'll focus on that today. And then third, the proper arrangement of the various parts of speech. If you attended a class a day before, we discussed about dividing your speech, whether it's an impromptu speech, into 3 different parts: the primacy, the body, and the recency, or the opening, the body, and the close, or OBC. That's what Aristotle refers to the various parts of a speech. And we went into details on how you can do this to make your speech a lot more effective. All right, so Joseph Chatfield also says something quite important. He says that oratory, that is public speaking or oratory, is the power to talk people out of their sober and natural opinions. When you're able to get people to change their thoughts, to change their opinion, to stop thinking the way they are thinking and start thinking in the direction of thoughts, that's what oratory is all about. That's what public speaking is all about. Those are 2 powerful quotes that I think that you have written down and you can reflect on that you can think about as we continue this conversation. So when we say transformational vocabulary, what do we really mean by transformational vocabulary? I'll tell you what it means. Transformational vocabulary is transforming your perception into proper sensations, or transformational vocabulary is transforming your perception or people's perception into proper sensations. What that means is that this transformational vocabulary is not just the good of the audience or the congregation or the students that you're reaching out to, you're trying to help. It's also good for you. By transforming your words, by incorporating new words into your vocabulary, by intensifying certain words that you use on a regular basis, by increasing your word power, you are going to convert perceptions into proper sensations, limiting perceptions into better sensations. And that is quite powerful. What is transformational vocabulary? Transformational vocabulary, and this is one I need you to write down because this is the real definition of transformational vocabulary. Transformational vocabulary is the conscious, underline that word, is the conscious use of specifically, so you're conscious about the use of those words, and they are specifically chosen words, not just words, phrases, to intensify or diminish any emotional state, positive or negative. Have you written this down? This is important. When you pick or choose words consciously and then or phrases, and the goal of those words is to intensify, or diminish an emotional state you have or the people listening to you have, you're just doing what's called you're engaging transformational vocabulary. When you use words consciously to intensify your emotions, when you use words consciously to diminish any state you have, that is what transformational vocabulary is all about. Have you written that? All right, that leads us to the last definition. So in summary, what we're saying is that transformational vocabulary is consciously using words to empower yourself or to empower others. So these three definitions will help us understand what we are talking about. First definition again, for those who just joining us, transformational vocabulary is transforming your perception or people's perception into proper sensation using words. Transformational vocabulary is the main core definition, is the conscious use of specifically chosen words or phrases to intensify or diminish any emotional state, positive or negative. And then we said, finally, that transformational vocabulary is consciously using words to empower. Words are very powerful. Words and phrases are very powerful. When you become a public speaker, one thing you will become acquainted, and you should become acquainted with, is the use of words. You have to deliberately increase your vocabulary. You want to be acquainted with certain figures of speech, especially idioms and metaphors. If you are in our WhatsApp group, if you're in a public speaking school, we said one of the assignments is that you need to do a speech on certain subjects like faith, finance, family. I think I gave a list of it there. And I said money and power, faith, finance, family, money and power. And I said that in your speech, in your 7 or 8 minute speech that you're going to do as an assignment, incorporate idioms and metaphors. And I'll tell you why. The reason why you use idioms and the reason why you use metaphors is because when you use metaphors in your expression, they come with images. They inspire people to see. They trigger the imagination of people. Idioms and metaphors, especially idioms, trigger inquisitive. People become inquisitive. They become inquisitive. And then also another interesting thing about idioms and metaphors is that a lot of times they are soaked with emotions. So I'm sure a lot of people say, okay, what is this metaphor? What is idioms? Or why do I need to use them in my expression? Why do I need to use them in public speaking? Why do I need to use them when I'm having conversing, when I'm having conversation, when I'm doing my presentation? Let's quickly understand what metaphors are. Or let us quickly see the difference between a metaphor and an idiom. But a metaphor is a comparison between two unlikely things in order to make a point. Is a comparison between two unlikely things in order to make a point. That's what a metaphor is. Two unlikely things in order to make a point. An idiom is a colorful expression used to make a point. Against the word colorful, expressions are basically also contain emotions. An idiom is a colorful expression used to make a point. So look at a few examples of a metaphor. A disaster waiting to happen. Okay. Don't be a wet blanket. Dying to meet you. Finger licking good. Flew off the handle. Hit the ceiling. I'm all ears. Left high and dry. Out of the woods. Raining cats and dogs. Those are metaphors, and those are also idioms. Very often, idioms are metaphors. Idiomatic expressions are metaphors. So when you begin to use things like left high and dry, out of the wood, raining cats and dogs. It's raining cats and dogs. She's the bomb. She's the bomb. Showered me with gifts. Something smells fishy. Talk a mile a minute. You are using idioms, and as well, you're also using metaphors. All right, so let's see if we have more examples. So metaphor is comparison between two different things without using like and as. I'm sure you're saying, you're wondering to yourself, oh, hey, here goes English literature again. And if you're a science student like I was, you probably didn't do literature, but if you did literature, this is flooding you with memories. It's important to know if you're going to do public speaking, you need to have an understanding of this. All right, so when you use words like all the world is a stage, that is a metaphor. When you use like and as, it's called simile. When you take out like and as in your expression and you just are direct about that expression or that vocabulary or that phrase, is called a metaphor. Let's see if we have some other example. Let me give you a typical example. Franklin has a heart of gold. Franklin has a heart of gold. That is a metaphor. That is a metaphor. Heart of gold. That's the metaphoric element in that statement. Mary's voice is music to the ears. That is a metaphor. Music to the ears or to my ears is the metaphoric element. Okay, it's very direct. He's a walking encyclopedia. You are my sunshine. The world's a stage. The world's a stage. So these are examples of metaphors. Okay, let's look at idioms. Idioms are very similar. They're also very colorful expressions, and they are like usually metaphors. Bury the hatchet. What does bury the hatchet mean? It means make peace. Turn one's coat. It means change one's principles. Throw in the towel. I'm sure you've heard of these expressions. These idiomatic expressions before. Give up a struggle. That's what it means. A rough diamond. It means a person of real words, but rough manners. Okay, silver tongue. Plausible, eloquent, persuasive in speaking. When you say a person has a silver tongue, that means he's plausible, he's eloquent, he's persuasive in speaking. Burn the candles at both ends. That means overdo work and play. So you want to incorporate these colorful expressions. You want to incorporate idioms and metaphors in your public speaking. Because, why are you doing that? Because it will trigger the imagination of the audience. It will get them to be very inquisitive. And beyond that, it will pass across the emotions you're trying to share. All right, so that's that. Okay, we have other things, other idioms. I also listed them out. Giving an assignment to make a list of idiomatic expressions as it relates to the topic that you're going to be speaking on. And then you can do a fantastic presentation. Put in at least 10 idiomatic expressions, like a cold day in July, something that will never happen. A snowball's chance in hell, to very unlikely to succeed at something. All wet, that's completely mistaken. Blood and thunder means a dramatic, spectacular performance. Spits into the wind means wasting time on something futile. Chase rainbows means to pursue unrealistic goals. Come rain and shine. Do regularly, whatever the circumstances. Steal someone's thunder. Imagine that. Steal someone's thunder. That means upstage someone. Dead of winter means the coldest, darkest part of winter. So the assignment is begin to collect idiomatic expressions and metaphors because it makes your speaking very colorful. It makes your speaking very expressive. It transforms the phrases that you share. It gets people to imagine what you're saying. It also gets people to be enveloped or overwhelmed by the emotions you're trying to pass across. It also gets them to be inquisitive, to start thinking, what does that mean? What does that idiomatic expression mean? It gets them to think, and that's the goal of the speaker. So I want you to note a few things that I want to share with you. One word or phrase can change your state. Just one word or one phrase that you add into your expressions or you share to people in a meeting can change their states. Words are that powerful. I'd like to tell you a story about a certain guy who came back from work. He was a banker. He came back from work this day and he realized that there was a Saturday morning game, an early morning game that was to be played in an American stadium, football game. And so he came back, didn't have time to eat. He slept, but he had this chicken, this nearby chicken that he put in his fridge, and by the following day, he said he was going to just warm it a little bit and then eat it. So the next morning, he warmed the chicken and then, ate it. When he got to the stadium, the game hadn't started. People were filling up the place. He realized there was this burger joint in the stadium, in that stadium. So he walked towards that direction and bought himself a burger, and he ate the burger. And then he went and sat down. After a few minutes, let's say 10 minutes or 15 minutes, he started feeling some things going on in his stomach. He felt that he needed to use the toilet. He went to use the toilet, and then he came back and sat down. In a few seconds or a few minutes again, he felt like using the toilet again. So he went back and used the toilet. And then by the time he had gone to the toilet 4 times, he knew there was trouble. He knew there was something from food poisoning. In America, these stadiums are very organized. So they have this clinic in the stadium. So he ran to the stadium clinic. Unfortunately, the chief, the medical person who was there wasn't available. So his aide was there. And then he complained to the aide, I'm feeling running. I've stooled 5 times. And so this aide just said, what did you eat? He said, I took the burger. I just bought the burger this morning and I ate it and I'm feeling bad. So instead of doing due diligence, the aide went to the sports announcer and told the sports announcer to announce that the burger sold in the burger joint in the stadium was poisoned, had food poisoning. So anybody feeling stooling, anybody feeling funny in the stomach should head to the clinic immediately. In a few minutes, the clinic was filled, the long line was filled with people, complaining that they're taking the burger in the burger joint and they're feeling troubles in their stomach. If you're the one who went to the toilet. And the chief medical officer or the man who is in charge of that clinic showed them and said, what's going on here? Why do we have a large crowd? What's going on here? And then the aide related the issue to him that, this guy said he ate burger and is feeling trouble. He had to use the toilet severally. And we had to make the announcement that the burger joint had food poisoning and all that. So the man, very smart guy, got the burger joint to send down a sample of the burger, checked it out, and realized there was nothing wrong with the burger. And then he had to probe this young man, this banker who had come to watch the game. Talk to me. Aside about what else did you eat? What else did you eat? I remember. I ate chicken that I kept in the fridge from the previous day. And it was a little bad. I tasted it. So you suddenly realized that it most likely was the chicken that he had eaten the day that he had kept the day before and eaten early the morning before he took the burger that was poisoned or was bad. The question now is, what happened to all the people that lined up and are feeling funny about the burger? That's how powerful words can. Words can change not just a state, it can change your body chemistry. I mean, there's something called the placebo effect, where doctors will, people will come complain about some kind of disease or sickness they don't feel is truly a sickness. And then the doctors, knowing that the ailment isn't there, especially the old people who have what's called hypochondria, it's a sickness which is not really real. They'll put distilled water into injection and inject them and tell them that they're just giving a powerful drug and they will get better. They'll get better. So words can change your states. It can change a person's state, a person's physical state, mental state. The story of a certain woman who came to the office and they had planned to spoil her day. As she got into the receptionist said to her, excuse me, sir, are you feeling okay? Are you okay? You don't look so good. I said, I'm looking fine. She said, I'm fine. And then she got into the next place, got to her office to sit on her desk, and somebody walked in and said, you're looking strange. Are you okay? Are you feeling good? You don't look so good. And she said, I'm okay. By the time she met the fourth person who also told her, you're not looking so good, she started saying to herself, I'm not sure I'm fine. And she literally started feeling very bad. Her state was changed. She couldn't concentrate. She was feeling sick. Only for the people to come out and say, okay, we're just experimenting on you with words. So words can change your state. Like I said earlier, words create a biochemical reactionary effect on your body. Words are that powerful. They can change your biochemistry. They can affect your. As a matter of fact, we are aware that there are certain hormones in the body, and these hormones are quite powerful, that can help that emotions, they can be triggered when words are used. So be careful what words you say to your children. Be careful what words you say, because they trigger up hormones, and these hormones are like catalysts. For example, endorphin is in the human body, and endorphin is associated with happiness. When people laugh, this hormone is released, makes them healthier and better. And words can trigger up laughter and release this hormone called endorphin. Dopamine is that hormone or that biochemical in our body that helps us have confidence, so much motivation. And a lot of us, when we are speaking, we need endorphin. That's why we say that one of the ways to charge yourself, to prepare yourself for your presentation, even if you have fear, is to say certain words, to consciously select words, intensify those words so that they release dopamine into your system, and then you can have that confidence. We teach that in the science of self-confidence. Testosterone is associated with the men's sex drive in the man. All right, but there are women who also have it. Men and women have testosterone, but men have it in larger quantity. When a woman has it more, she acts more like a man, But beyond, and it's also associated with the sex drive of a man. Beyond the sex drive, testosterone has been researched and found out it's associated with a man's sex drive or success drive. So people succeed because of the high level, the drive to achieve is as a result of the testosterone that they have in their system. Same thing with progesterone. Progesterone is associated with love. Adrenaline is associated with flight and fight. And the point is, certain words that we use in a conversation can change our biochemistry. Words are that powerful. In 1925, a research was done, what's called, and then they came together and started off what is called the spelling bee competition. Have you heard of the spelling bee competition? Spelling bee competition, so you get 11-year-olds or young people to, spell words, English words, and even borrowed English words. And then doing that research in 1925, and it's lasted on for many years, close to, by 2025, that would be 100 years since the spelling competition started in America. And they did a research on the quality of the mind of the students who participated in the spelling bee competition. And here's what they realized. They realized that the students who learned new words and were able to spell new words, new English words, and to spell effectively, had a bigger mind. So your mind never returns back to its original dimension when you introduce your mind to new words. So I want to encourage you to do something today. That you want to start reading books, underlining new words, have a vocabulary book that contains new words that you encounter as you read a magazine, a newspaper, watching television, or listen to anybody say, write those words and check out their meanings. Then beyond that, try to incorporate those words into your vocabulary. One new word will introduce you to 10 new words, okay, 10 new synonyms. And so they realized that the minds of these kids were wider. They had wider, a bigger mind, bigger perspective. Beyond that, they also noticed that the people who learned new words had a deeper thinking. They could think deeper. They could evaluate. Their judgment was sharper. And as a result, they become a lot more successful in life. So words are powerful. They work on your mind. Mental development is also majorly as a result of what is called vocabulary development. Mental development is a result of vocabulary development, understanding new terms. Now, I use this example a lot. You have two kids, like we have two kids on this slide here. Let's assume kid A, Pravna, let's assume Pravna, that should be Indian, and Pranati, that's also Indian, the male and the female, they are exposed differently by two parents. The first parent of Pravna decides to send the child to conventional school to learn words associated with the conventional school. And that child learns and is exposed to that information, goes to secondary school, and nothing more. But Pravna or Pranati is giving more, exposed to new words, exposed to financial terms. It gets to understand the stock market, to understand the forex market, exposed to terms in that area. Now, which of the two, Branav or Branati, will see financial opportunities faster? Your answer or your guesses are as good as mine. Pranati, who has been exposed to financial terms and to forex terms and to stock market terms, will see opportunity, will see financial opportunities, and most likely become richer faster. So the spelling bee competition was done in 1925, and they realized that the children who succeeded in it and who did it and engaged in it were a lot more successful, in their thinking, and turned out to become successful. As a matter of fact, in my community in 2011, my organization began doing this spelling bee competition around my community, and we realized that in knowledge, people, the teachers and the students were not deep in thinking. They didn't know how to spell or use words. So words are very powerful. I'd like you to note that when two people interact, words play a role in the impact on how they feel, when people interact, when you engage an audience, or when you in a conversation, you're in a sales mode, the words play a major impact on how they feel, and the right words will get us to take the right action. So I want to encourage you to become deliberate and intentional. Do the assignment that brings you. Begin to become a collector of words, of phrases, of idiomatic expressions. Add that to your knowledge bank, to your word bank, so that your word power, you have a repository of words that you can use when you are expressing yourself. The reason why people are aggressive is because they are not expressive. They don't have words to express themselves. Civilization is as a result of effective expression. And so in civilized countries where words are available to engage in conversations, they are not aggressive. So when two people interact, words play a role in the impact on how they feel. The right words get us to take action. Now, this is a very interesting thing, and this is neuro-linguistic programming. For those of you who have been my student when it comes to neuro-linguistic programming, this would not be new or strange. Now, when you adopt someone's language pattern, that is tonality, the words that he says, you adopt their emotional pattern as well. So I can assess your emotions. I can assess how you feel at the moment, your state, by speaking like you're speaking, by using the same tone like you're using, by using the same choice of words like you're using. If I use your choice of words and your tone and use the same language pattern, I will assess your state. So words are that powerful. You can literally mirror or model anybody who is successful. All you need to do is listen to him. You don't just want to mirror his physiology, that his movement and the way he does things. You also want to mirror his language pattern. If you mirror a person's language pattern, you would assess the person's state. If you assess the person's state, you would assess his resources. You will assess his energy, and you can achieve a whole lot when you assess energies. All right. So this is so striking. That's how powerful words are. All the beliefs that you have, all the beliefs you have about God, about money, about life, they are all a matter of words or labels that you have on your inside. And belief systems are generalizations that can empower and disempower us. Okay, so now the interesting thing about words is that habitual words, the words you say habitually, they shape your state. They shape our states. Things you say, that's how indoctrination happens. Indoctrination is as a result of repeated words. Repetition is the principle for a lasting impression. As you keep saying these words to people, you shape their thinking. You give them the mental formation. And this is so vital. So habitual words shape our states. Now, listen to this very carefully. The moment you take an experience, whatever experience it might be, and put a label on it, it becomes your experience. Now, I was saying this in class the other day. I said, that's a physical class. I said to them, look, there are certain words in my country, there are certain vocabularies, there are certain labels, certain words are not available in our vocabulary. We don't use them. Because we don't use them, we don't really understand the experience. Let me give you an example. Nervous breakdown. That word, or those words, we don't really have have you ever had a nervous breakdown? In America or in Europe or in advanced countries, we have that, and so they have that experience. Or suicide. Suicide is strange, of course. You have people who commit suicide, but it's still very strange. It's not something that you have us saying regularly. But in India, the word suicide is used very regularly, and the rate of the suicidal rate is very, very high. Okay, things like depression. Of course, depression is a real disease, mental disease, but we don't have that word for it. So you see, we go through a whole lot in our country, and yet we're still able to move ahead because we don't have a label to label a word to label that experience. And because we don't have a word to label the experience, we literally delete the experience from our lives. We don't have it. We can't really explain it. Does this make sense to you? There are certain ancient tribes in our world today that don't have a word for war. They don't have a word for war, and they have never fought war before. Never fought war before because they don't have a word for war. There are certain tribes like in China, the word for crisis is the same word for change. And because every time they have crisis, they call it change, that's what they experience. So some of you need to start deleting certain words in vocabulary. I'm managing, things are so bad. Oh, I'm fine. You want to delete certain words that bring to bear sensations. Bring to bear sensations that you don't need to have at all. So the moment you take an experience and put a label on it, it becomes your experience. Now, a lot of human beings have 3 labels. So if you have 3 labels or 3 words, you have 3 experiences. If you have 12 labels or 12 words, you have 12 experiences. That's how this thing goes. Words are the building blocks of human experience. Every human experience you have, feeling, emotion, state, is as a result of words that you heard or words that you saw, you're reading or you're hearing. So words are that powerful. Words, so if you want to enrich your life, all you simply want to do is enrich your vocabulary, increase your vocabulary, learn new words, learn something about money. You got to understand more about money, terms used in money, and you'll be surprised the opportunities you will see. About agriculture, you see surprised the opportunities you see in agriculture. About digital marketing, you surprised just get acquainted with those terms. You're limited by your words. You're liberated by your words. Your words limit or mar you. And so, like we talked about the research done, those spelling bee kids, they have a rich life because they have a rich vocabulary. Enrich your vocabulary, and you're going to enrich your life. If you can change one word in your belief system, you can change your beliefs. Just delete certain words from your belief system, you can literally change your beliefs. So most human beings have 12 emotions or 12 labels, and as a result have 12 experiences. And that is so very interesting. Again, for matter of emphasis, the label you put on your experience becomes your experience. The label you put on your experience becomes your experience. The label you put on your experience becomes your experience. When we have an experience, it is just a sensation. When we have an experience, it's just a sensation. But when we put a label, it becomes a perception. When we have an experience, it's just a sensation. But when we put a label, when we use a word to describe it, it becomes a perception. I'm sharing with you very strong things. Be very careful the words that come out of your mouth. Be conscious of it. Be particular about it. Don't say things anyhow, because words come with feelings, come with imagery, and come with experiences. All right. So this is so important. Now, so if you have no way to, I already said this, but I want to, for emphasis, if you have no way to represent something, you have no way to experience it. So delete words like I'm broke. Delete words like, someone was saying in class the other day that in the house, that the father has insisted that nobody should ever say finished. It doesn't matter if they have full stuff, you don't say finished. Change the word from finished to something else. Find another word, excuse me, to talk about finish than say it is finished, all right? So that is so vital. All right, so let's look at some statistics about words. Let's look at some stats. According to Compton's Encyclopedia, the total number of words in English as of 2014 or 2000, as of 2004 was 750,000 words. 750,000 words. German as at 2004 was 45,000. Yes, Chinese, Chinese language had over 50,000. And imagine 50,000 as compared to 750,000 words. What that means, why is it that the English language has more vocabulary, has more words? The reason is because the English language has a lot of borrowed words from other languages, borrowed words from other languages. So we have words like assassin was borrowed from Shakespeare, like rendezvous, like exempli gratia, that's Latin, like etc., like modus operandi, fait accompli, in loco parentis, aide de camp, what else again, experience the core, ad hoc, de facto, these are borrowed words. Chocolates, these are borrowed words. Yam is African, it's borrowed. Ketchup, safaris, Arabian, these are borrowed words from other languages. You have words like restaurant. What we call restaurant, actually restaurant is French. Entrepreneur, you have words like these are words, chocolates. Chocolate is Italian. These are borrowed words from various languages. If you're just joining us, I'd like you to mute your sound. If you just joined in, mute the sound. If you just joined in and you're in the background, please mute your sound so we don't get to remove you. Thank you. So the English language has a lot of borrowed words in the stuff. So now, unfortunately for a lot of us, the average person, especially in Africa, we use between 500 to 2,000 words. Of 750,000 words available in English language that can give you a very enriching experience, that can enable you to be more expressive, more civilized. We only use between 500 and 2,000 words. See why we live average lives? We see why we don't have enriching lives. So your goal should be, and the assignment I give to you is write down idiomatic expressions so that you can enrich make your words more colorful. All right, idiomatic expressions, metaphors, and then I already mentioned a few borrowed words. There are many borrowed words you want to incorporate in your, in your lexicon, in your expressions, and you can use them, like I mentioned earlier, aide de camp, vis-a-vis, tête-à-tête or tête-à-tête, creme de la creme. Those are words that we use in English language that you can start using in your expression as a speaker, so that you increase yourself from 500 to or maybe to 10,000 or so, and so forth. All right. So the average person's vocabulary is 2,000 words according to linguistics. All right. So this is the current situation right now. Interesting fact is that how many words are there in the English language as of today? We have 1,025,109 English words. I said the swelling is as a result of these borrowed words from the various. So the English language is a global language and is the most enriching language. The richest people in the world are English-speaking people. The richest people in the world are English-speaking people. The people who have a more qualitative life are English-speaking people, next to the Chinese. Okay, so English adds a new word every 98 minutes. The average American uses 7,500 because Americans are that's why America is probably the greatest nation in the world. They use 7,500 words per day, and they know up to 20,000 words in total. The African man uses between 500 to 2,000 words, and is so particular about his own language. Nothing bad about your language. But in the global market, in the global world, you want to use the English language better. How many languages are there? We have more than 2,700 languages and 7,000 plus if you factor in dialects. All right. 90% of these are spoken by less than 100,000 people. Did you hear that? 90% of the 2,700 languages we have in our world today are spoken by less than 100,000 people. That's so strange. All right. So you want to start speaking the language of power, the language that can give you the edge, especially in these current times. Now let's look at some more stats. The Bible has 12,000 vocabularies. And if you're a person who studies the Bible very often, you'll start noticing that you have a lot of expressions, biblical expressions. And because you have a lot of biblical expressions, you're also going to most likely have a lot of biblical experiences. Okay, Shakespeare has close to 33,000 vocabularies. And of course, Isaac Newton has 25,000 vocabularies. Roger Tessero says that we have more than 3,000 words describing various emotions. For just emotions in the English language, out of this 1.something million, we have 3,000 of them. Maybe there are more now, expressing emotions. 1,051 words are positive, and guess what? 2,286 words are negative. So we have more words that are negative in the English language than words that are positive. That's why the American suffers a lot from depression and nervous breakdown, because he has a lot of words to label his experiences. And because he labels his experiences, he has the same sensation as a result of those labeling. Am I confusing anybody? So let me begin to wrap up. I'm sure you've gotten value from what you've learned today. But let's be more deliberate today about what I've shared with you. Let's quickly do an exercise. Write down 3 words you use to describe your negative experience. Every time something happens to you that you don't like, a circumstance that happens to you that you don't like it, what are those words you use? Oh, things are so rough. Things are so bad. I'm managing. Those words you use when write them down. When you have a negative experience, what words you say? Now, your job is to write down by the side. You don't have to show them. You don't have to tell me. 3 empowering alternatives. So instead of saying, somebody asks you, how are you doing? Instead of saying, things are so rough, what words can you use? You don't have to use, you don't have to lie about it, but look for an empowering alternative. Look for something that takes the bite, the sting of that word, so that it doesn't give you the weighing experience, doesn't place a weight on you that stops, changes your state, affects your biochemistry or your chemicals, and stops you from achieving your results. So can you do that exercise? Exercise number 2 simply says, write down 3 words you use to describe positive experiences, and then write down 3 words to enhance it or to intensify it. Let's assume that when someone says, how are you doing? So I'm fine. Fine is good, but it's not great. It's just bland. It's just ordinary. We want to intensify fine to fantastic. I'm fantastic. I'm doing fabulous. I'm doing spectacular. You want to transform ordinary words, even if they are positive, into extraordinary words. That's the essence of transformational vocabulary. You want to intensify positive words, use greater words. Instead of confidence, you say courage. Look out for words that are very simplistic, that you use on a regular basis, that are very ordinary, that are not negative, but ordinary, and then intensify them and use them. Imagine using those words on people. Imagine using those words on your children. Imagine using them in your conversation. You will have people with more positive states, more intensified states. You'll have more transformed lives around you. So this is a very powerful exercise. All right, so as we begin to wrap up, this is the last slide of this class. Let me give you some negative experiences and empowering alternatives. So rather than use these negative words, I'd encourage you to use empowering alternatives. So rather than use the word "I'm depressed" and you don't want to lie, you're feeling, rather than use that, you can use an empowering alternative, and that could be "I'm a little down." See, you've reduced the impact of depression. Depression means ebbing low, going down. That's a little down. Rather than use the word "I'm lonely," what you should say is "I'm open for love." Don't use the word "I'm lonely." Use the word "I'm open for love." Rather than use the word "I'm exhausted." Use the word I need recharging. I need to be recharged. Rather use the word "failure" in your expressions or your conversation. An empowering alternative could be use the word "I am learning." I'm learning. Let's not say I didn't fail, I learned. Okay? Rather than use the word things like "I'm frustrated." Oh, this is so frustrating. Rather than use that word, an empowering alternative that will diminish the impact of the word label is "I'm fascinated." Rather than use the word "I hate," why don't you use the word or the phrase "I prefer"? Rather than use the phrase "I hate," use the word "prefer," "I prefer." Rather than say "I'm overloaded," why don't you say that "I am stretching"? I am stretching. Rather than use the word, okay, that's it. Rather than say "I'm sad," why don't you use the word "I am quiet"? Rather than use the word "this is terrible," "this is terrible," why don't you say "this is different"? So change the word depressed to a little down, lonely to open for love, exhausted to recharging, failure to learning, frustrated to fascinated, I hate to I prefer, overloaded to stretching, sad to quiet, terrible to different. So this act of changing your words, being careful about what words you use, is called transformational vocabulary. When you water down the impact of the words that you share, is transforming words from that negative experience into an empowering alternative. When you intensify a word, maybe next time I'm going to show you certain words you can intensify. When you intensify a word and make it stronger, more hyped, better, that is transformational vocabulary. When you incorporate idiomatic expressions and metaphors and figures of speech into your speaking, that is transformational vocabulary. When you add borrowed words, borrowed languages in the English language, like the ones I mentioned, experience call, vis-a-vis, creme de la creme, rendezvous, status quo, those abode words, when you add them into your expression, you're also engaging in transformational vocabulary. When you start looking for new words that people are not very conversant with, homophones and homographs, and you begin to add them to your expression, to your speaking, that is you doing transformational vocabulary. When you add quotes, maxims, and quips and proverbs into your and poems into your speaking, that is you doing transformational vocabulary. See, your expression will be better. Your words will come alive really and greatly. I hope you got value today. I hope you got value today. So now I'm going to allow for you to take questions. I'm sure that you learned one or two things. And the idea of this class is to help you, to warn you that what the religious people teach and what they say, what the pastors say about words being powerful, about words being very changing a person's life, is true. Science agree with it. Psychology agrees with it. Neuro-linguistic programming agrees with it, that the words that you use are quite powerful. And we're saying now that you should be more deliberate, consciously use those words to change your society, to change the people around you. I hope you got value. I'll take a few questions as we call it a wrap today. Did you get value?